Chuck it.
Hey now, welcome to the Fantasy Heat. The Fantasy Heat.
Hey now.
Fantasy Heat. We got Matt here with us again, and Colin. Please join us on Facebook and the Fantasy Heat at gmail.com, and follow us on Twitter. What's going on, guys?
We have Daryl Dixon.
Yes, you do.
Our resident bobblehead. I just want to point out,
Go ahead.
Chuck, when I got here, Chuck was cleaning, which is a nice thing to do. We all do that when we have guests, and he was very happy with his vacuum, and he said it was a Dyson. Well, after further investigation, I'm sorry, Chuck, but he bought a Bison. It was $59.99 at the flea market, and anyway, it seemed to work.
Thanks for exposing me to the world.
Another man's trash is another man's treasure, guys. And a good fantasy value to remember.
Who buys a Bison?
Oh,
I don't know. Sounds like he's
right.
vacuuming the house with a steak.
It's clean. It looks good.
So today we're going to be discussing some wide receiver rankings, and we're also going to be speaking about whether you should be focusing on drafting youth early in your dynasty or keeper leagues.
Youth early, dynasty keeper versus standard. That's a popular question we've been discussing as a group. We have a league we're starting this year. It's going to be a keeper, somewhat dynasty, and it's our first time doing it. So we have a lot of questions ourselves about how do you draft dynasty keepers versus standard? Chuck, what's your opinion on that?
Ooh, coming back to me first. All right, well, I think personally, if I could take a proven person in the first round, if I could take an Eddie Lacy or an AP over a Jeremy Hill or a C.J. Anderson, I'm going to do that all day, every day.
But they're all about the same age right there, though.
You know what? AP's been here. He's been here. Some people are saying, oh, we don't know how many years he's got left. Or we'll focus on a Jamal Charles or Matt Forte. I'll take Matt Forte over Jeremy Hill every day of the week. Because I think that there's still going to be plenty of youth left in the 5 rounds and later that I could take and mix in. And, if they show me something, I'll keep them.
Right. And I think they say what percentage of draftees ever become Pro Bowlers? First round, especially keeper or dynasty, first round has to be a guy for sure you're going to get at least a couple years out of.
Yeah, you got to be a monster running back to come out and make an impact in your first year.
Right. So basically, if you go youth, you throw this year away. I mean, is that what attitude you want for the first year, Colin?
Absolutely not. You can't just throw the first year down to the toilet. You need to be able to compete now. Now, of course, if you can have an option to be competitive and draft some youth, that's definitely the ticket right there.
Right, because I saw in a mock draft, this was not just some online random thing. It was real individuals. Somebody took C.J. Anderson with the number 1 pick because he's 23, maybe turning 24, blah, blah, blah. How would you take him over even an Arian Foster?
I would like to speak to him and just yell, just stop. No, that needs not ever happen. If there's anybody else on the board, Adrian Peterson, Arian Foster, Matt Forte, I take those guys because I'm almost dead positive they're going to put you up points as opposed to CJ. Come on.
Agreed.
Come on.
In the politest way.
This guy says, I'm drafting for 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. I said, but if you win this year, you play for free the next 5 years. No team drafts for 5 years from now, in the NFL.
I think it'll be competitive all the same.
Okay.
That the unproven youth is going to be there later. I don't think you need to
Agreed.
Jump on it that soon.
No, you don't need to reach that early for that kind of youth.
Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
One more. I see Randall Cobb and help me, Chuck.
Jordy Nelson.
And Jordy Nelson. Jordy Nelson's ranked higher than Randall Cobb, but yet he's 6 years older than Randall Cobb. Those guys are almost going back to back in mock drafts right now.
There's some teams, Broncos included, Packers, that are just wide receiver phenomena. James Jones a couple years ago from the wide receiver 3 led the league in touchdowns. I don't think with that team it matters who you pick out of those two. You're flip a 3-headed coin, like I said last week.
Jordy's way more proven.
Is he though? Is he though?
No,
I'll tell
I
you
guess
what.
not.
I'll tell you what. I'm obsessed with him, and I'll tell you, he looks at Randall Cobb every third down. That's the guy. He's their X factor.
Okay, so third downs.
And he also, if your league gives you points for punt returns, there's a strong potential they put him back there again this year.
I don't want my receivers doing punt returns. It's an injury waiting to happen.
Randall Cobb's my guy. I'd take Randall Cobb over Jordy.
Note that Jordy Nelson is also coming
Okay,
off.
but because of age, because that's the conversation here.
Pretty-
Because of age, or just because you think he's better?
I would take over the age factor in
Age,
general.
okay.
The stats are very similar across the board: receptions, touchdowns. I mean, Randall Cobb had, I believe, 92 receptions last year. Jordy Nelson's 96.
Yeah, actually,
So they're close.
93
They're
for
very-
Cobb, 98 for Nelson.
you.
They're both getting 13 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns. Do note, though, that Jordy Nelson's coming off season hip surgery. They said he should be fine. He'll be ready.
They
but
said it's
Right.
clean.
just
McCarthy says it's
some-
minor, so they should be all right.
something you might want to know. All right, so I think we're pretty unanimous on waiting on the youth if you're doing a dynasty here. So we'll jump right into the wide receiver rankings. We're going to do it a little bit different this week. I'm just going to count down backwards, my top 10, and I'll let you guys comment. So starting off at number 10, rounding mine out, I got Mike Evans.
Who
Mike
first?
Evans. Go ahead, Colin.
Mike Evans is-
I know you're a Tampa guy, too.
Mike Evans is excellent. I actually like this pick. I think it's a good number 10 solid rating for Chuck in his top 10. Mike Evans put up phenomenal stats last year. Now, I know he had 3 weeks where it was a little bit of stat padding there for a majority, and he was very touchdown dependent. But his quarterbacks were Josh McCown and Mike Glennon last year. Jameis Winston is already going to be an upgrade.
Do you think Crab Legs is going to...
I think Crowley
Boost him?
He's already an upgrade from those two quarterbacks, and he has. You know what? He does a lot of things Winston does okay. Reading defense is a transition from him, but he's going to do what he excels at. He's going to look to the big guy.
Does anybody here truly think that ASJ or Vincent Jackson is going to steal this guy's workload?
No, I don't believe so.
I'll tell you straight up, I wouldn't touch Mike Evans in the top 10.
Ooh, why
Wouldn't
not?
touch him. Would not touch him. I love the guy. He's big. Yeah, I get it. But Jameis Winston has not even thrown a pass. Did I hear an Austin Safarian Jenkins bomb?
You did.
This guy, they say every year is going to catch balls, at least last year anyway. They said he's going to catch balls. He never did. Tampa kind of stinks.
Well, that was kind of a sarcastic, rhetorical question because I know that he's not.
But you think he's the 10th best receiver to draft?
Yes, I do.
Oh, absolutely. The
He
guy's
was-
a monster.
He was a top 10 last year in fantasy standard scoring leagues for receivers, and that was with stat pads. I think he'll be
And
much.
that's with, I'm doing quotations around my head here, the veteran Vincent Jackson over there.
Yeah,
He's,
I've got him out of my top 10, but I respect your opinions.
okay. Now, I'm going to get some scoffs here because I've seen this guy go number 1 overall in some drafts, Odell Beckham Jr.
Woo! I could just point out, and I probably will do this every single time we do this roundtable. I won the Super Bowl last year with a excellent waiver wire. I dropped Reuben Randall and picked up ODB, and I think I'm still spending my winnings.
Oh, okay.
So no, ODB. I love ODB, but how are you going to expect him to do what he did last year? I mean, those magnificent catches are career highlights. They're not the norm. If you draft ODB with your first overall pick, he absolutely has to copy last year's numbers, and the stats say that's just not possible.
Okay,
Colin.
we got our resident knee surgery expert here, Colin. Victor Cruz is coming off the trifecta. Do you think he makes a difference in Odell's workload?
I do. I think Victor Cruz makes a big difference in Odell Beckham's workload.
Do you think it'll be the same?
I do not think he will be the same, but I do still think he'll be very effective, and he'll take a lot of looks away from Odell Beckham Jr. because now you're going to see us. I know people say, well, they had the last 4 weeks to adjust from game tape on Odell Beckham Jr. and they couldn't do it from game tape on Odell Beckham. Coaches come in the league, people have schemes. They'll make some adjustments this year to Odell Beckham
The
Jr.
Wildcat, yeah. Okay.
I hate
So-
the Wildcat.
Okay, so does anybody have any
I never
argu-
understood the Wildcat, actually. The running back
It's 'cause-
sits behind the in the quarterback position, and we all know he's getting it. I just don't understand how the Wildcat fools anybody.
It's nonsense. That's exactly what
nonsense.
we're
It's just
talking
nonsense.
about. So does anybody have any arguments with ODB at 9?
No, I like Odell.
No, yeah, I like him at 9. That's
I just have to say one thing. Can we all take like a couple more years before we enshrine this guy in the NFL Hall of Fame, please?
and also too Eli
least 5.
Manning. You can you had 2 Super Bowl MVPs, but is anybody going to bet money that Eli Manning is going to be throwing good passes?
Eli
this
Manning's
year?
not the issue for me. Eli Manning played his first year in a West Coast offense with Gilbert back there as the offensive coordinator, and
Greg
he had
McAdoo.
a career low in interceptions, and almost a career high in touchdowns. I believe throwing 34 last year, and it was the quietest 34 touchdowns in the season anybody would see. Eli Manning isn't the issue. I think Victor Cruz taking targets is the bigger issue coming back healthy.
Moving on up, we got Turf Toe AJ Green. I got at number 8. I think he's going to have a big bounce back year now that he's healthy. Thoughts?
AJ Green, I remember well the draft when the Bengals took AJ. He was number 1 that year. Julio Jones was allegedly a distant 2. Not distant, but definitely a 2. But Julio's outperformed AJ since they've been in the NFL. So, AJ, I think, still has not produced the value that the Bengals drafted him in my opinion.
As of last year, definitely no. Colin?
I like AJ Green sitting 8. I agree with that. His talent isn't the issue for me. He's going to come back and have a huge bounce back year. The only problem is Andy Dalton, with the offense going to a much more run-based offense. Andy Dalton threw a career low in touchdowns last year, I believe 19.
Yeah, I had AJ on my team, and I was quite disappointed when he went out injured. I thought I had the
It's Andy Dalton, and that's what we have to come back to.
The Red Rifle.
Andy Dalton.
He's soulless. Emotions don't get in his way. He's going to go out there and do what he does.
And that's chuck the ball up to AJ Green.
Yeah, I think if you take AJ Green this year, you're going to be doing plenty of front flips.
Yeah.
I will go on record as saying I would take ODB ahead of AJ.
And by the way, that sound of paper tearing, was that you trying to imitate his ligaments in his foot last year?
I agree with that. OBD could go ahead of AJ Green for a lot
Absolutely.
of people.
All right.
Just-
Next. Okay. I'm sorry, finish your comment.
I was going to say, it's more passing friendly over in New York now with the West Coast offense, so that plays
It
well
usually-
to all the strengths of your wide
We'll
receivers.
usually take a year or two to transition, I think.
I believe the Bengals ran about 52.5% of plays last year.
Right.
And
I will say, and I'm sorry to continue, but all of our comments through email and social media begged us to extend the length of the program, so we're doing the opposite, and we're actually cutting the time today.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's
I know you all want 3 hours of this.
Our
Yeah,
program
we have
program
other-
director has a little bit of a different idea than what you guys want.
Yeah, we have other obligations today, so sorry for that.
So we got Evans, ODB, AJ. I would not argue those 3. I would probably, if I had to, go Evans, AJ, ODB, but we're splitting hairs. Number 7.
Okay, number 7. Colin's probably going to hang me. Julio Jones. No, anybody? I know.
I like
Julio's
Julio
your guy.
higher than that.
I do too.
I do. For the fact, can anybody name a running back in Atlanta right now?
Yeah, 2, but
Devonta Freeman.
neither of them are very good.
That's my point. I mean, the last time they had any kind of a running back that hype was built was that alleged burner guy.
What about Steven Jackson?
He was in the back. There was no prime left
You know-
in Steven Jackson's game.
Yeah.
It was over with.
Getting a guy in his downslide coming off injury season after injury season, no. Because Atlanta has nothing really to speak of except for Julio, he's guaranteed to get you, 1,400 yards. And that's probably a low estimate. But I'm
Granted,
just
the
saying, he's a lock.
Granted, the offensive line stays healthy. There's going to be plenty of targets to go around. Roddy White had a very, very solid, capable last few fantasy weeks of the season with Julio Jones slowing down a little bit because of injury.
What if I told you in his career that he's only scored double-digit touchdowns once, and that was 10? So
Julio
he barely
Jones?
made the mark.
Yep.
Julio Jones.
Yeah, I guess. Wow. Well, yeah, but injury plays into a little bit of that.
There's a lot of
You missed
distributing
2
football
games,
in
and you already are now.
He was also the number 2 to Roddy White every year until last year. And look, when Roddy White was actually healthy, again,
So he's
healthy, the
allegedly
big
he's coming
question.
back healthy this year. So what do we think about? This is why I got him at 7.
I still think Julio is the number 1 guy now. He's going to be the guy in the red zone over Roddy White. And we're talking about keeper/dynasty leagues. Julio Jones, I believe, is only 26 years old. Roddy White's 32.
Yeah.
I mean, Roddy White hasn't stayed healthy in 2.5 seasons now.
Yeah.
So it's
I've heard rumors that they're going to use Julio as their quote-unquote X factor this year. But you also got to wonder about their offensive line with the way it was last year.
That's always a big question mark for every team. I mean, injuries happen to everybody, so.
Now, here's a guy who I think could potentially be higher on my list, but right now I got him at number 6 just because I haven't seen him be the lead guy yet, Alshon Jeffrey.
Maybe I'm a contrarian. My friend Andy says that. Shout out. Go AK, Rowdy. Way too high.
Way too high?
I have no
Okay.
faith in the Bears. I have no faith in Smokin' Jay. And, when Brandon Marshall was there, now Alshon's getting double covered. I don't see him getting... I would take that second guy. Who's that Kevin White?
Kevin White, you take the rookie over him?
Not over him. But I'd take Kevin White for the simple fact that all the attention's going to be on Alshon Jeffrey.
With a little bit more value later in the draft. you take
Exactly,
Kevin White.
value.
You'll probably Kevin White in the 9th, 10th round, right?
Okay, well, let me submit to you this. Alshon Jeffrey's put together 2 straight years of playing every game, 85 and 89 receptions for those years. Both of them went for over 1,000 yards, and he put together 10 touchdowns and 7 touchdowns with Brandon Marshall stealing the rest of his catches.
And if I could add to that, he
And
also
Smokin'
did
Jay.
well with one Tim Tebow. However, Brandon Marshall was stealing a lot of the attention. That's all I'm saying. They're going to be double covering Alshon the entire year.
Can you?
I don't like that.
See, that's the one thing about the Chicago offense. I absolutely despise Smokin' Jay. I think he's kind of a crybaby. But I'll give respect where respect is due. They have Matt Forte, and it's a trifecta of weapons over there. And even if you
pull
want
the safeties in.
if you want to include Martellus Bennett also.
Yeah.
So you have 3 potential monstrous targets in a receiving game. A quarterback who can throw. He's got an arm if he's not throwing it to the other team. And you got Matt Forte distracting you also.
Matt Forte
can you
will
afford?
draw the defense in, so I do get that. Julio Jones and Alshon both have the same situation. They're the clear number 1 guys. My difference is Julio Jones, I think, is big and strong enough to beat double coverage because he will just out-jump them and out-muscle them.
He is.
Does
why they took
Alshon
him.
out-muscle defenders? How tall is Alshon?
Alshon's pretty tall. What is he, about 6'6"?
I mean, and
Alshon is 6'3".
okay, he's 6'3". And I couldn't tell you how tall Julio is. I am not a guru on the.
Julio's also 6'3". They're the
So-
same size.
How come Julio seems to just jump and muscle so much more than Alshon when I watch the ESPN highlights?
Hype. Maybe a little
it's
bit of
hype.
leniency
Yeah, maybe it's
towards
hype.
another player.
I just,
Market maybe.
yeah, I don't know. I've just never been an Alshon guy. Sorry about that.
Why is Tom
Chicago. Clark Griswold.
aside from Super Bowl wins? Why is Tom Brady even in the conversation for one of the best quarterbacks of all time?
Clutch.
Market.
Oh, right.
Market.
Boston, sure. Well, Alshon at 6. We can go back and talk about re-ranking. I would have Alshon back, maybe in the A.J. Green territory. Just a couple spots back, that's all.
Alshon Green's borderline out of my top 10. I think he sits in my number 10 spot.
You just mixed some names there.
I'm
AJ Green
sorry.
or Alshon Jeffrey?
Very sorry, guys. Alshon Green.
We're playing Madden
Let's fire
right now.
up
We
the
just made
Bison.
it. Yeah. We're playing Madden, so
That's
we
my
just made a
that's my
superstar.
Bison $59.99 value pick. Alshon Jeffrey sits at number 10.
He's your McDouble. He's your value pick. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on. This is going to be
5.
the end of the segment here. Number 5, Jordy Nelson on my list.
Jordy Nelson, we just talked about how he and possibly Randall Cobb were equals, but here Cobb's not going to make your top 10, and you have Jordy in front of guys like Julio Jones. Strong move, and I agree with it totally.
Here's my thought. Jordy Nelson is a big-time deep target. Every time you see them run play action, Jordy Nelson is usually going to catch the ball for at least 50 yards.
He's
and a
streaking
touchdown.
somewhere.
He's got one of the highest yards after catch in the league. Him and Aaron Rodgers together as a team, and this is the only receiving core that can, or the receiver quarterback combination that can say this has 45 touchdowns together, highest in the league since in their tenure together.
Right.
And it's not because I'm biased. If I was biased, I would have Jordy Nelson at 1. But
No, Jordy. Jordy to me is a lot of a similar Greg Jennings deal. If Jordy went to another team, let's say the Vikings, like Jennings did, is Jordy a top 10? Not a chance.
no, because he doesn't have a freak of nature throwing him the ball.
So therefore, you're saying half of these rankings are based on who's throwing you the ball. Would you agree?
How could you not?
Then that is why I take a guy like AJ Green and I devalue him a little bit because for instance, ODB, I put above AJ because I have more faith in Eli Manning over.
Well, this guy's not
your
on
red-haired
a-
friend.
That makes me sick just hearing that.
I'm going to bring up somebody who's not on my list. You got Brian Hoyer chucking up the ball down
Brian
there.
Hoyer's awesome.
To DeAndre Hopkins, but like clearly
Do
everywhere
I
I
care?
go, I see DeAndre Hopkins is
Going
like
top 10.
going top 10, going top 12. He's ranked as the 14th overall receiver, pretty much on everybody's.
I can't even
boards.
tell you who's throwing him the ball.
He just told you Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, Brian Hoyer.
Oh, Brian Hoyer is
Your boy from
he doesn't-
Cleveland.
I know, but Brian Hoyer does not have the starting job, right? It might be Ryan.
he's
Hoyer.
in.
He is.
He's a
He is.
starter.
He is a starter.
He is their starter.
And who's the backup?
I believe
we've touched
I
on this
believe
last week. I
Tom
couldn't tell you.
Savage, I believe.
Tom Savage.
Yeah, they drafted him in the 4th round out of Pitt last year.
Okay.
Brian Hoyer loves to throw the ball deep. Do I care if he's throwing interceptions the rest of the time? No.
Let's be realistic. None of us are drafting Brian Hoyer.
But what I'm getting at
I
when
don't
you
think none of us are drafting DeAndre Hopkins, but
no, I'm not going to draft him. But we kind of got off a topic here. So, coming back, we had Jordy Nelson at number 5, and we're going to jump into our next segment here, where I'm going to give you a name, and you tell me where you would prefer take him in the draft, if take him at all. And we're going to start with the 34-year-old Andre Johnson.
Andre.
Andre, I'm going to start by saying
ahead, Colin.
I am super high on Andre. Andre's inside my top 20. He's outside almost everybody's 30. This guy produced last year and the year before with 0 quarterback game. You can see he had Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub lost his game because he threw 6 straight games on an interception return for a touchdown.
And I'll say this to begin, too. All of our receivers here are going to be veteran receivers that we bring up in this segment, but not one of them had double-digit
T.Y.
touchdowns.
Hilton's 5'10". He's not a good red zone target. He'll make his plays because he has an elite quarterback throwing him the football. So you could see a little uptick in his touchdowns this year from like 5 to maybe 7, possibly 8. But Andre Johnson still has a skill set to go up there and put up double-digit touchdowns
He's a
this
Hall
year.
of Fame receiver, yeah.
Oh, hands down.
So Andre Johnson lowers the value of T.Y. Hilton.
I don't think he lowers too much value. I still think T.Y. Hilton's a big deep threat. He's still going to see his yards and the average numbers. I think Andre Johnson's just going to be valued more and see more targets in the red zone. I think it lowers the tight end's value and the 2 and the 3 and 4 receivers in that team.
But not T.Y.
Not
So
T.Y.
Andre Johnson, if you had to take him in rounds 1 through 14, where do you take him?
I'd take Andre I'd be comfortable taking Andre in the 4th,
he's
5th round.
He's 4th or 5th. That's way higher than what mock drafts say.
I don't think 4th or 5th. He's definitely floating there in the 6th or 7th, and that's usually when people start seeing his name creep up on the board, and then they go, Andre, and take him.
But that's just it. I have his name. That's one of the guys for me. His name's in my head before I even start my draft.
Could he potentially be a producer of a number 1 wide receiver year?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
And to Colin's point, I think he doesn't devalue T.Y. Hilton too much because the Colts throw the ball more than any other team in the league.
Yep, sounds good. So, hey, Andre Johnson, I say around 7. Colin says he'd reach at 5.
It just depends on how your draft's playing out. I definitely think he's worth a shot.
I'm also drafting dead last in the Dynasty League this year.
Yeah, and also Colin has already said he's a proponent of running back, so he might be needing to reach for receivers later if he does do his running back philosophy that most agree with.
Moving on here, 32-year-old Vincent Jackson.
I wouldn't touch Vincent Jackson.
Not either. This man has the Grinch pull.
I wouldn't even touch him because I'm just burnt. I have tried guys like Vincent Jackson. I've tried guys like Deshaun Jackson, and they kind of all did who'd be a good comparison. They all kind of did to me what, oh heck, now I'm losing it. Give me a Redskins guy who always had 4 great games and 8 average games.
Who, Pierre Garçon?
No, before. Come on.
No.
Come on, you know.
Santana Moss.
Santana Moss.
good Lord.
Thank you. I put both of these guys in Santana Moss because, you know, Vincent Jackson's always going to be a decent flex, and that's as far as you go with that guy.
Agreed.
I don't draft flexes. I draft lottery picks at 10, 11, 12, or I don't draft.
We're going to, just because I mentioned his name, I like to mention my faults. I was all in on Pierre Garçon last year, and he strangled me with a couple 0-point games.
I think Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson, not Deshaun Jackson. Who are we talking about here?
Vincent Jackson.
Vincent Jackson, and they're all the same guy. They're all Santana Moss.
So, Colin, you don't touch him either?
I'm not touching Vincent Jackson.
I'm not touching him either, and I'll tell you why. In his entire career, Vincent Jackson hasn't scored double-digit touchdowns once.
What's his high, 7 or 8?
His highest is 9.
Oh.
Last year, he scored 2. and he's had 6,000-yard seasons. That's very, very mediocre to me. I think I can find somebody with a ton more upside than that. So, you know what? Where do you take him? Not. I not take him.
Well, I can't
That's even a
say that. If I'm sitting there in the 14th round, maybe I grab him to cover a bye week.
He
or
won't make it to the
something.
14th round.
No,
let's
somebody will
not
take
kid
him.
ourselves.
Well,
Somebody-
to say
somebody-
I'd never
yeah.
draft him is slightly maybe.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll draft him.
where he's going, which would be the 4th or 5th round in most mock drafts.
In our
I wouldn't touch him
opinion,
with
nowhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch him with a 39.5-foot pole, as the Grinch would say.
He's going nowhere in our opinions.
Gotcha.
Next up on our list, 31-year-old Brandon Marshall.
Oh, that's excellent. He's kind of not to draw a parallel to the Jets, but to me that's a Decker. You know, Decker was good with Peyton, and then he sat on our waiver wire and nobody won him last year.
Yeah.
And back to Vincent Jackson. If Vincent Jackson would have Peyton Manning throwing him the ball, he would be a top.
It'd be a different
top five,
story,
you know?
but for whatever reason, whether it be his practice habits or maybe there's something we don't see, they couldn't utilize him as. They couldn't make him a superstar in San Diego either, with Philip Rivers throwing him the ball.
Yeah. But back to Brandon Marshall, that's a real wild card for me. I mean, he could be awesome. The guy could be awesome.
He could, yeah. And a lot of people were thinking, oh, well, he's there to take the heat off Eric Decker. Maybe this is Eric Decker's year. You know, Brandon Marshall's turned his life around. He's got his emotions under control. He's practicing
I
right.
don't want emotions under control. I want him to be crazy.
Yeah, well, I don't know if
That's a crazy
I want him
senior analyst for you.
insulting offensive coordinators and blaming other players for why they lose.
you want him to go full Plaxico
I
on
want
you?
him to go full. You might want to shoot himself.
Full Plaxico out of control.
Mind you, this is the only thing Cleveland Browns fans had to look forward to, guys. So.
Yeah.
What do you think about Brandon?
I like Brandon. I wouldn't touch him any higher than the 7th round. It's Geno Smith has played some bad football, but he got the job back at the end of last season. He played much better to what he was playing at. I'm not going above the 7th round. That's all I have to say about him. But Brandon Marshall still has elite talent if he has a guy who can just be mediocre under the center. He'll give you double-digit touchdowns still in the end zone, but you have.
I saw this stat and it kind of blew my mind. I felt like he did a lot more than this last year. 61 receptions, 721 yards, and 8 touchdowns last year.
Very mediocre. There was a problem with him and Jay Cutler, though. I mean, you saw them arguing a lot at the end of the games.
Alshon Jeffrey outscored him last year.
Big time.
Yeah, but Marshall and Cutler have a really good history.
They didn't.
Denver and
Last year they did. The relationship.
I mean,
was-
Chicago got Marshall just because Cutler won them, right?
and it was different last year. You could tell that Marshall did not want to play with Cutler.
Every time Green Bay goes to play Chicago, you always have that little hair stand up on the back of your neck because you know they have a potential to be an absolute offensive juggernaut. And then Jay Cutler starts throwing us the ball, and it all goes back to normal. But
Yeah, Brandon Marshall, please
if they
excuse me.
could ever, I don't know what the deal is with them, but if they could ever get their ducks in a row, they could actually go somewhere. Last one of this segment, 27-year-old Percy Harvin.
Talked about a cancer in the locker room. I've never heard. I have a lot of buddies who went to Florida, and they say this guy's he makes no friends on any team he plays on. I mean, and that's hearsay. However, one thing about Percy, if you're in a league that gives yards for kick or punt returns, then he's good. But if your league only gives for which I believe our league this year is only, we are giving touchdowns to punt and kick returns.
No yards, just touchdowns.
Last year we tried the yards, which really made Percy
Devin-
valuable a couple games.
Yeah, and
So-
some 42-point games, and Devin Hester's blowing up.
yeah, that was. we
that
tried
was
something.
yeah.
Percy Harvin, I would take him in 11th round.
He's not going till around then, Colin.
11th to 12th is fine for me. Particularly, I'm not even touching him. He's nowhere on my radar.
Do you think?
He wouldn't show if I was on the.
Do you think they're going to use him any differently than anybody
No.
before him?
Absolutely
You think
not.
Maybe
he went to the Jets last year and played with Rex Ryan. Granted, it was a very small sample, but now he's back with Rex Ryan in Buffalo. Rex Ryan wants him for a reason, so he might be willing to take a flyer on him in the 11th, 12th round, but just not a guy I'm willing to touch anywhere. I won't touch Percy Harvin, period.
I've heard that those huge diamond earrings are actually brain kryptonite, and that's why he keeps getting these headaches.
Yeah. A guy I think is going to have a huge year is Dwayne Bowe. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Gotta shoot out some Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, somewhere over the Dwayne Bowe.
Hey, would you draft Dwayne Bowe? Anybody?
No. Who's turned the ball in Cleveland this year?
Yeah.
Listen,
Somebody
you know what?
new every year.
Instead of
probably
yeah.
McCaffrey McCown, but you know.
Instead of drafting Dwayne Bowe, I'd rather go sell cars with Josh Gordon. How's that for you?
Wow, that's another thing. I carried Josh Gordon last year, the whole entire year.
He texts me every morning, "Hey, Gordon's going to be playing soon."
Right.
Hey, Gordon's going to, and he played, and wow.
It is amazing. I had such great luck last year. I don't know if I
Yeah.
mentioned.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
if I mentioned
This guy
that I had
picks up
success last year.
He picks up
called
Bradshaw.
a Super Bowl victory
Based on luck.
and I carried Gordon and I carried Ryan Matthews the whole year. So
no.
I had two
Yeah.
lists.
This guy drafts Jimmy Graham with his first pick.
That's right.
Picks up Drew Brees, who
Yep.
were doing
Yep.
nothing at the beginning of the season.
I think I auto drafted Bell by mistake because
Yeah.
I was getting a beer.
Oh yeah, we were talking because remember all the grumbles last year. Oh yeah, him and LeGarrette are going to split carries, so everybody promptly jumped off the Bell
Hey, we're getting
bandwagon.
off topic here. We're talking receivers, not about my success.
I just also wanted to point out that he picked up ODB and Ahmad Bradshaw off the waiver wire last year.
Hey, it's called strategy.
All right, so
He just left real quick to get himself another beer, guys.
Strategy.
all right, so jumping back into rankings here. Now we're done with that segment. We got
Dwayne Bowe.
Oh no. Yeah, that's if you flip your draft board and start drafting from the back.
Yeah.
Which
Dwayne
somebody,
Bowe's at 74. The 74th best receiver.
I'd like to say we had a 10-team league last year. And we actually had a guy who accidentally flipped his top board, so he ended up drafting Aberaditis,
Yeah.
the sixth-string wide receiver on the Packers depth chart.
He
tore his ACL.
this poor guy drafted number 754 on the big board with his first overall pick. Oh, that poor guy.
That was the biggest laugh I've ever seen in my life. We're gonna be 65 years old, dying of Alzheimer's, and we're not gonna forget that.
If I could throw one thing out to be serious here, one thing I do recommend to everybody, in a serious note, not Dwayne Bowe, if you're if you're to draft online, which most do, in person's the best, but get your commissioner to be able to pause it. And here's what I'm saying: I can just see me being on the clock and my computer dying, or my mom calls, or something happens, and then all of a sudden I'm get your commissioner to learn how to pause it and just text the group and say, guys, something came up, give me 5 minutes. If anybody in your league isn't cool with that, find new people to play
take a
with.
hike.
Because this guy who flipped his draft, I would have voted to let him go back and rescind that.
my
I mean,
God.
come on, that could ruin the league right there.
Speaking of which, the only person at this table who personally knows this poor guy really well, he was on a really crappy flip screen Dell laptop crap thing, and I'm pretty sure as soon as he flipped the screen, it flipped his draft board. So
Yeah, Jared Abridoris.
Jared.
I apologize. I can't even pronounce his name properly, but the very last person on the board, he took the very first
756 from the big board. Our senior analyst is literally having a stroke, so we get this guy a hospice bed.
What did everybody think about that when they saw?
Oh my God,
We lost our
Colin!
mind.
You should have seen how quick Colin jumped off the couch. He did what? Al Michaels came to
Al Michaels
our
came
draft
and made a
started
guest
screaming.
appearance in our draft room.
Yeah.
And then honestly,
and you know
didn't
what?
stop there.
Dennis Green was the only one that didn't show up because he wasn't who they thought he was going to be.
And then Michael texts us, the guy who ended up drafting Aberadivis. He goes, "So what's the payout for the fantasy league this year?" And I just wanted to scream at him, "Playoffs! You're talking about playoffs?"
Yeah, okay. So we'll get back on track here.
number 4.
I'll let Matt take a sip of water here.
All right,
I got
number 4, Dwayne Bowe.
no Demarius Thomas.
DT, the guy who can't catch.
Yeah, oh, so
that's rough.
now we're talking keeper dynasty this year or this
What
show.
is he, 28?
28.
No, he's not 28. He's 26, 27.
No, I believe he's
Let me
28.
apologize. Let me flip my page here.
Wait, he
Turning 28 this year.
turning 28. Okay,
Yep.
he's turning. So
Turning
he's 27. DT. I consider him and Des, for whatever reason, take the contract negotiation out of it. Every time I talk with my friends about the 2 friends I have and my dog, we always want, every time Thomas or Des Bryant come up, the other name's sure to come. Like these guys are the same player or
they're-
something.
These guys are peanut butter and jelly. They stick together everywhere you go for some reason.
I would take Des Bryant over Demarius Thomas with no hesitation. That's probably why we haven't got to Des yet.
Now
Fine.
are we talking Standard? Or?
Well, they're both the same age.
Okay. Now, does
Oh, you mean PPR versus standard? Is that what you mean?
No. We're talking PPR keeper.
Versus-
now, are we considering
versus non-keeper.
are we considering Peyton Manning possibly retiring at the end of the year?
Yeah.
With that decision making? Or?
Peyton Manning wants to stay around to get one more Super Bowl. I would not be
It
surprised.
won't happen.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if Peyton Manning not only played another 4 years, but maybe with another team.
Well, let me tell you something. Peyton Manning's head bobbles more than Daryl Dixon's right here.
Who is this Daryl Dixon guy? Because I looked him up on NFL.com, and he's not a punter on any team.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't punt with the crop.
Who is
You know
Daryl
what?
Dixon?
We probably just lost our only fan because you don't know who Daryl Dixon is. You know what you just did to us?
Who's Daryl Dixon?
You've never seen the
don't
Walking
watch The
Dead.
Walking
Okay,
Dead.
well,
So the
I
senior
won't even
analyst
go there.
being
With
I
it.
watched The Walking Dead. It's called My Beloved Cleveland Browns.
Fair enough. Everything you need to know is just there from our senior analyst.
Yeah.
folks.
But hey, guys,
Well-
I'm going to go back to this. Dwayne Bowe's going to bail us out. I'm
Oh my
telling
God! You know
guys.
what?
Nobody's bailing you out. Obama. I mean, I don't want to use a president reference, but Obama couldn't write you guys a stimulus to bail yourselves out.
How about who's that guy that your friend drafted at 750?
Oh, and Jared Abrederis.
Maybe you guys can get him to play number 2 spot. He'll probably end up in the same spot as Josh Cribbs or Josh Gordon.
Okay, jumping back to
DT4.
Jumping back to Thomas here.
Anyway, let me get some
Every year-
saying into Demarius Thomas.
He'll go top 10.
Of course he
We
will.
know
I
this.
mean, you want to compete right away. I have no problem with competing right away, especially if you draft in my position, 11th, 12th, somewhere in that range. But
No, your range is actually quite 12. 6 or
I
12
was-
in that range.
to the audience, I said 11th or 12th, somewhere in that range.
All right, continue.
Our one friend on YouTube. Thank you, by the way, young man who gave us a good comment on
Yeah.
YouTube. 1-0.
Okay, so
With
Demarius.
Demarius Thomas, he has a very specific skill set. He has the tools, but he needs somebody capable of throwing the ball. I mean, the numbers were not there his first 2 pro years without Peyton Manning. It just wasn't there. He had very mediocre,
He did
low
well
end 2
with
numbers.
Timmy Tebow.
2010 and 2011, we have a total of 6 touchdowns, 2 1 year for the next. Every year since Peyton's shown up, he's received double-digit touchdowns.
That's my point. He's very dependent on the guy under center. Now, of course, that's said true for anybody when you have a player the caliber of Peyton Manning. But, I mean, talking in terms of a keeper in fantasy league, you can have a year or 2 out of Demarius, and then after that, you really don't know what to expect.
I do see upside with DT. The only reason I say that, and I am absolutely stealing thunder from what I've heard from Brent Masenko. Yeah, I'm dropping names. So many of your top Hall of Fame receivers did not really start to shine until their 3rd year and beyond. So the idea of Demarius dropping the ball,
Yeah.
well, yeah, he's also still developing. Very rarely does a receiver, put up Hall of Fame numbers their first 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, quick comment here. Don't expect every year's draft class for wide receivers to be looked at the draft class you just saw from last year's rookie wide receivers.
Well,
that happens once in a lifetime, guys.
I made a ludicrous prediction last week, and I'm going to make another one today, except this one is absolutely 100% ludicrous. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo goes absolutely hog wild in these first 4 games.
Oh,
and
yeah.
at the end of the year, John Elway trades for him to replace Peyton. And they continue their success with DT.
Matt Castle.
Yeah, a la Matt Castle,
what?
a la Matt Flynn.
Well, now that you brought this up,
Real quick, though, just so you guys know, Matt Castle's now throwing the ball in Buffalo.
Garoppolo for president, 16.
now that you bring this up, it's a system. Every single one of these guys were number 1 their entire life. I don't care if it's Jordy Nelson or if it's Brandon Marshall. These guys were all the best player on their Pee Wee team, the best player on their high school team, the best player on their college team. They all have been winners every step of the way. It's a system. Jimmy Garoppolo, is that
Garoppolo.
Garoppolo's that annoying female comedian. Jimmy Garoppolo, he will do wonderful because he's in a great system. Now drop him on the Cleveland Browns, then no. So I said this last week. I'll say it again. My uncle Dave could quarterback on a good system in the NFL right now.
All right, moving
Shout
up. Moving up to number 3, we have the 6'5", 29-year-old Des Bryant. Or excuse me, Calvin Johnson. I jumped.
Calvin.
I got Calvin ranked 3rd.
Mega Cowboy? Oh,
Mega Cowboy.
we're merging the two.
We're still playing Madden. We're making up superstars
So
here.
you have Calvin.
I got Calvin Johnson
Calvin's
ranked number
getting a
3.
little older. What is he, 29?
He was 29.
Is 29 that old for a receiver?
It's really not.
No.
All right.
Yeah, look
You
at
guys
Randy
don't
Moss.
like Fatthew Stafford, and I'm going to say Fatthew until he comes to training camp in shape once in his life. Thank you, Andy.
fair
Shout
enough.
out.
I've had Matthew Stafford a couple times in my fantasy lifetime.
Now, was that the
And-
year you didn't make the playoffs, or the
Yeah.
other year you didn't make the playoffs?
It was the 3rd year he didn't make the playoffs.
Hey, no. Let's take a step back now. I won the championship in 2013.
We should have some kind of rule that your
The,
commissioner has to make the playoffs, or we upseat him from his position.
Okay.
Anyway, Calvin Johnson. This is Megatron, guys. I know he's not the number 1 consensus overall
He's the
receiver,
best. He's the best receiver.
but
Still, if
he's
he's
still the
healthy.
best athlete when he's 100% healthy. Now, he missed 2 games after his breakout year in 2012, where he almost broke Jerry Rice's single-season receiving yards record. He missed 2 games the following year, and he missed 3 last year. Last year, he was very unhealthy. 3 missed games, dealt with ankle injuries. I've heard through the wire, through a lot of professionals, he took a lot of time off this year to get 100% healthy. A lot of knee injuries, calf injuries, ankle injuries have been bothering him. He said he should be shored up and ready to go. They chucked the ball a ton in Detroit. Sue is gone. Fairley's gone. The defense is going to be not as proficient as it was last year. They're going to need to win shootouts, have shootouts to win
And
ball
as
games.
long as Golden Tate's on your team, you're never going to be called for offensive pass interference.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about that.
Hey,
I don't want to get any Fail Marys.
I don't want to quiz you guys. Nobody at this table claims to be an expert. One thing, if I could say to the listening audience of one that we have, well, it's true. We don't claim to be experts. You know, guys like Matthew Berry, who gets paid, you know, substantially well, doesn't win his leagues. So, I mean, we don't claim to be experts. So if I throw this out there, I'm not trying to quiz anybody. Does anybody remember who got drafted 1 and 2 ahead of Calvin Johnson? Because Calvin went 3rd. 4th was, and I only know this because the Browns were 1 pick away from getting Johnson. Instead, we got Joe Thomas. And then, of course, at 7, Adrian Peterson went. That was a pretty interesting draft. Who? Because it's fun to look back and go, wow, 1 and
07?
2, you guys took idiots, and you could have Calvin Johnson.
That was, what, the 07 draft?
Yeah, I'd say. And I'm just curious because, you know, it's fun to see Calvin Johnson, we all agree, will be the best receiver in football if he's healthy.
Yeah.
I just wonder, you know,
If I had to
who
take
didn't get him back
if I
in
had to
07
take
or
a
whatever.
guess, it would have had to have been a quarterback, you would think, or a defensive tackle.
Yeah. I just don't remember. That was a fun year for the draft, though. Anyway,
All right,
okay, moving
on to number 2, Des Bryant.
Dez.
This time I mean it.
Yes. Now, do you think Dez? I mean, we all agree Tony Romo is so underrated. All anybody does is picks on Tony Romo, but he's a top 5 fantasy quarterback every year. The guy can throw. The guy chucks it up. If Tony Romo isn't good 2-3 years from now, is Dez a guy you want even on a dynasty or keeper league? That's my question.
No. I got to put this sentence together in my head real quick. Tony Romo made it on the NFL's top 10 meltdown lists for his performance in December and November.
Yeah, of course.
Tony Romo will get you to the fantasy playoffs, but I think I'd be better off plugging in Marcus Mariota after
Okay.
that.
So not to get on Tony Romo, but I'm talking about Dez Bryant here. How? See, I don't know. What I'm asking is, how much of Dez Bryant's success is due to Romo? We've already said Demaryius Thomas might be a product of Peyton Manning. Is Dez Bryant a product of Tony Romo's?
Oh,
quality?
nobody's going to sit here and question that it's not Tony Romo getting them the ball. He's a pretty Brett Favre.
Okay.
I personally,
I might reach for Dez big time this year. I'm telling our league now, I might reach for Dez big time this year.
I actually disagree. His stat lines the last 3 years are very similar. Scores double-digit touchdowns every year. He's looked for in the red zone. It's I don't think it matters as long as you put a capable quarterback in that system under center. Like not AKA not a Brandon Whedon.
Okay.
Can you believe that the Browns
here,
drafted
let
that
me-
grandpa?
Okay, we want to ask about Tony Romo's addition to Des Bryant's performance. In 2010, when John Kitna was under center while Tony Romo was injured, I think it was
John
a
Kitna.
broken collarbone.
I like John Kitna.
Des Bryant had 45 receptions for 561 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's kind of pedestrian. Not kind of, it is.
In the defense, though, like our senior analyst stated about 10 minutes ago,
I am the elder.
a lot of guys don't start to flourish until after their second year. And Des Bryant did have some serious character issues at the beginning of his career. Where he's
still got character issues.
To this day, he's still half running some routes, not going out all out on every play.
I don't even want to talk about his contract because they're only going to pay me $12.8 million this year. Shut up.
Hey, I'm all for him fighting for money, whatever. I thought it was just maybe I'm just not down with the youth and their banter, but when he tweeted to the Cowboy fans, I'm not going to come if they don't make me a deal, that's fine. But then what was this? Oh, little babies. Or whatever that tweet. Did anybody see that? It was creepy.
No, I
The
ignored,
day a Browns player calls me one of his little babies.
I ignored Des Bryant's porous attitude. Word of the
Well,
day.
here's porous. Here's my thought on Des Bryant. I'll sum it up with somebody else's name. Sean Alexander gets paid, and I think he's gonna lay us an egg.
Yeah.
Agreed. I see that kind of. I just don't think.
You know what? I think I just made a saying: get paid, laid an egg.
Nice.
Yeah.
We're going to use that to describe some of the NFL's
Right there.
greedy players out there.
Yeah, Des Bryant's. I feel Des Bryant's one of those.
While Des Bryant's number 2 on my list, he will not be on any of my teams.
He won't
Okay.
be on mine either.
I just-
So
I
you're
refuse.
telling me, and this is a argument, we've heard it about Sean Alexander, we've heard it about many players. You think once they get the big contract, they come out and intentionally don't give it their all? Doesn't make any sense.
We're in the NFL nowadays where they're fighting not to get hit. You get paid multi-million dollars a year to entertain us.
So he's
and
thinking about his health.
You know what? I'll tell you right now.
Brian's thinking about his health when he's 50 right now?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's what the NFLPA is all about right now. I bet you if we brought Al Michaels into this table right now, he'd be 100% on
Well,
my
it's funny
side.
you say that. We have a special guest today.
Come on in, Al.
It's Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah.
Like a boy.
Des Bryant's that type of person. He's shown that through his whole career that he's about him and nobody else. You think Des Bryant cares about the Cowboys or the Cowboys fans or his team?
His little baby.
He's not Terrell Owens. He's not out there crying, "Oh, that's my quarterback, man." No,
love Terrell.
all Des cares about is his money and how big of a rock he could put on his earlobe.
Yeah, but when you're making the money he was making, he already is making enough to have a mansion on every Caribbean island under the sun.
So imagine the amount of greed it would take to hold out regular season games for that contract.
That's why vanity and greed are two of the 7 deadly sins, people.
Right. See, one thing about basketball I notice, guys like LeBron, for example, he's only thinking of his merchandise. I mean, Michael Jordan probably made more last year than ever.
Well, I'll tell you right now,
basketball,
I'm not going to buy any Des Bryant
But
high tops.
Doesn't Dez want to sell merchandise? Like Michael Irvin, even though he left the Cowboys, retired, and then smoked crack for 2 years.
Yeah, I was going to say Michael Irvin has his own trademark.
Michael Irvin still sells jerseys. Michael
Yeah.
Irvin still flipping sells jerseys and gets endorsements. Isn't Dez thinking about that? You go out and lay goose eggs.
Well-
your money is over. You know,
It's
You know,
different. Again, it falls into
Here's my true and honest opinion of Des Bryant. You went up and you put up a fabulous year last year, 16 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Are you afraid you can't do it again this year? And that's why you're so dead set on getting this contract? If you love the Cowboys...
No, they don't want to get injured, and then with the non-guarantees, you're bagging groceries with my.
And that's exactly what I was saying. He's not going to be bagging groceries. You out of your mind?
Hey, sometime to our fans, all one of you, sometime Google how many NFL players go broke by the time they're 50. 75% of these guys will be broke when they die, and it's insane that you can go through that kind of money.
And this is that guy because he's spending all the money on his earrings.
His hoopty earrings.
So you guys won't touch Dez, but you have him at 2, though.
Because I'm trying to give you a fair, non-biased, researched answer, and Des Bryant is 2 on people who don't care. But I don't like Des Bryant. I don't want to see his face I don't want his face in my lineup.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like his face.
I think we're going to be unanimous on this one. Number one, Antonio Brown by a long shot.
Yeah.
As
Antonio Brown.
as Bill Murray said in Ghostbusters, we got the tools, we got the talent.
Yeah. Antonio Brown. I'm picking at 7, and I'll tell everybody in our league right now, if Antonio Brown's there at 7, I'm going to send you all a Christmas present. Antonio Brown, first off, he
What are you getting me, Matt?
He will be returning kicks and punts, which means two touchdowns this year, possibly there. He also is going to throw for a touchdown, folks.
Stop. Just stop.
He threw for a touchdown last year.
Yeah.
No, it was
Antonio Brown is their trick play.
Let me tell you something. As long as there's no punters that look like they're shielding themselves from a radiation storm and don't get stomped in the
Yeah,
face,
don't get
he's going to have some
kicked.
punt return touchdowns too if you're counting those. Antonio Brown can do it all. He can. Yeah.
I think Antonio Brown is, some say an overall number 1.
Yeah.
Now, I know everybody says take running back, and I get that.
You know what? If you don't think he's going to be there by the time you come back and Antonio's your guy, I would take him number 1 overall.
Yeah, but here's the argument, and everybody said this on all the other podcasts. There's only 5 or 6 guaranteed running backs. I can name you 20 wide receivers that will all be in the ballpark of each other.
Agreed, and that's why I favor running backs so highly.
There's only 5 or 6 running backs this year, period, done.
Yeah, but another side of the argument is that wide
Maybe I will get him at 7.
receivers are safer this year. Everybody's got that.
Wide receivers are always safer, but there's so many of them. I mean, guys,
That's-
not to bring this up, I picked up ODB on the waiver wire. I mean, that's how receivers can just pop out of nowhere.
Yeah, but nobody knew who he was last year. I don't think
I
that's
did.
a fair. Yeah.
No, he didn't.
My bank account did.
All right, so that's our top 10 wide
Yeah, Antonio
receivers.
Brown.
You guys can heckle us in the comments if you want. Moving
do.
on to our last segment of today, we got Who's Your Rookie? I want you to tell me who you believe will have a great year this year as a fantasy wide receiver rookie.
How about you first, Colin?
To me, this is a no-brainer. I personally think this should be around the board. Amari Cooper. His route running is the most polished coming into the league. He's a great product out of Alabama. Believe it or not, Carr played exceptionally well considering the talent he had around him in Oakland. A lot of jobs that guys before him could not do, a.k.a. Jamarcus Russell. There's been a lot of quarterbacks that come and go out there who could just not perform, and Carr did pretty well considering what he had to work with. And now you give him a real receiver to put some talent around him, double-digit touchdowns are not out of the question. It's a big possibility for Amari Cooper, so he's a good pick in the 5th round, especially in a dynasty league. So Amari Cooper would be my rookie
I
to go
can't
with.
draft a Raider because, hey, I'm 42 years old, and I've seen very few good Raider teams. I just have no faith in the Raiders. No faith at all.
You don't have to have a good team to put up some numbers. You have a capable quarterback who
That's
can put up a
true.
few numbers, and
I heard that same argument about Darren McFadden.
also injury prone. That's his biggest issue.
Since the Jim Plunkett days, I know the Raiders went to the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, which I still don't see how that happened. You remember what was that? 05 or was
02.
02? Crap, I'm old. Who's the Jacksonville? Robinson?
Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson?
Yes.
I don't watch outside of the Buckeyes. I don't watch college as much as most of these, especially these two with me. But from what I've been hearing from the scouts and my insiders, Allen Robinson is going to be the rookie of the year, at least in the wide receiver category. That's my
Allen Robinson's
that's my
actually
insiders talking.
Allen
there.
Robinson's actually in his 2nd season. Just want to put that out
Is
there.
he his 2nd season?
Yeah, he only played 5-6 games last year.
Nah,
See-
we'll redshirt him for the sake
We'll
of
redshirt
argument.
him. Yeah, I'll go to college
Hey.
reference.
Thanks for saving me, Chuck. No, I thought he was a rookie because
You know what?
he was a nobody on my list.
No, he was
Jacksonville is
Injured
where
last
receivers go, or not receivers, where players go to die. We
Well,
could-
Cecil Shorts?
no, well,
Surely-
Here's your prime example: their number 1 overall pick didn't even make it through OTA.
Yeah,
First day.
Justin Blackman.
No.
It was Fowler Jr. from
Yeah,
Florida.
Fowler
the
Jr.
defensive end they drafted. Hey,
Wait, I heard
Well,
that.
thought we're sticking to wide receivers there, guys.
that's Jacksonville, though, man. That stuff always happens there.
Well, hey, so my rookie pick of the year is actually a second-year player.
fantastic.
So
Chuck, how about
Matt decided he's going to cheat. I'm kind of split. We already mentioned Amari Cooper. Yeah, I don't know if If I had to choose, though, I think I'd kind of be split down the middle between Kevin White or Brashad Perryman over in Baltimore. One, because I think Flacco...
Flacco's a gunslinger. Why do people doubt this guy? I would love to see Flacco.
There's no
on the
more
Browns.
Torrey Smith, so Perryman's got to be their speed running down the field. They love to throw the ball deep when they're not running it. And I already kind of expressed my respect for the Chicago offense. I think Kevin White would complement Alshon well.
Yeah, I don't think Kevin White's going to lose so much to, I've already said this, to Alshon because Alshon's double covered. I think that it's Matt Forte that kills Kevin White's value.
Yeah, really depending on what they do this year. It's going to be a different offensive scheme. Kevin White. A lot of people have problems with him, USC receivers, too. They don't think they produce. For the most part, maybe they don't.
Right. Well, any more rookies? I don't put any faith into rookies. I don't draft rookies. I don't draft rookies. So you won't see a single rookie on my draft board this year. I just don't do it. So I'm uneducated in this. Colin, any more rookie thoughts?
I'll give Devontae Parker a little bit of a mention. He's going through a foot injury right now. He should be back in time for training camp. There are a lot of spots opened up. Mike Wallace is now in Minnesota. Devontae Parker's in as a rookie. I see Jarvis Landry being the consensus number one. He had a good season last year, I believe. He had 84 catches, which is pretty impressive considering his rookie season. By the way, he's also OBJ's teammate over there at LSU in his college days. So they've now performed 2 top receivers along with senior analyst boy Dwayne Bowe.
Yeah.
LSU shout out.
Nelson Aguilar, anybody?
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
Back to Dwayne.
No, leave Dwayne Bowe out of this. What do you do to you? Stop picking on the poor guy. Aguilar, he's
Here's what Matthews did in his first year over there with Chip Kelly. Played all 16 games, 67 receptions, 872 yards, and 8 TDs.
Why didn't they keep him?
Out the box. They do.
did keep
Jordan
him.
Matthews is
Oh,
number one.
Jordan Matthews.
I'm saying
I'm
as a
sorry.
rookie coming in last year, those are the numbers he put up.
senior analyst sells coffee, guys. You'll have to work with him.
Oh, my
I'm sorry,
Lord.
I got Jeremy Maclin in my head all of a sudden right now.
It's according to my phone. Oh, it's because I'm looking at a screenshot. It said 10:24 p.m. It's
analyst will be asleep by then.
it's a little bit after 1 and we haven't eaten
Be in
yet.
bed.
So
I am the Elder. Hey, the Elder, Kiss's most underrated album.
oh my god. All right,
Hey,
so I
any
think
more
that
thoughts?
about rounds it out for us today.
I appreciate you guys listening to this nonsense. I'd just like to thank you
Colin,
all for
thanks.
reviewing.
Matt, thanks. Daryl. Again, please join us on Facebook. We're going to be open to questions at thefantasyheat@gmail.com and also get at us on Twitter. Have a good day, guys. Bye.